Hi, everyone. My name is Nana Yanfel, and I'm the legal director at the BLAC Legal Action Center. At the BLAC Legal Action Center, my role is to oversee all of BLAC's strategic litigation, test case litigation, and our direct legal service provision. So that means that, the direct service that we provide to BLAC people across the province, that's delivered by our amazing staff lawyers. And I'm responsible for making sure that the work that we do in that area is consistent and it's great, and that we all get the proper training we need to make sure we're doing that work effectively. I'm also, as I mentioned, responsible for the test case litigation and strategic litigation. And that means if we see consistent legal issues in an area, let's say around policing or let's say the treatment of folks in prison, for example, and we notice that it's consistent and that it's affecting Black people in a particular way, we might do a challenge, not necessarily for one person, but a broad challenge to make an impact for a lot of people. So that's what we mean by test case litigation. So you're taking a particular issue that affects more than one person, and we are asking the court to make a decision that will affect more than one person, that will affect a larger group. So for example, we are engaged in, we just finished actually a test case litigation around an intervention in the Queen and Morris, and that was a case around sentencing and sentencing Black offenders. We're also looking to get involved in coroner's inquests and issues around education law as well. So there are a variety of areas that anti-Black racism impacts Black people, as everybody knows here. And so that's my job, is to make sure that we are engaging in broad-based litigation issues to make sure that we're making an impact, not just in one-on-one, but in a larger way. The education system is a very interesting place to work in because, anybody between the ages of 6 and 17 are required to go to school, right? So it's something that everybody has, most people have experience with and also have challenges in, especially if you're Black. So the BLAC Legal Action Center, we provide free legal services to low and no income Black people across the province who are experiencing discrimination in a variety of areas. And one of those areas is education. What we see is that we hear from parents and young people and students that they believe they've been suspended because they were Black, or they were, unfairly disciplined because of their race. Maybe they were bullied and they were harassed, and when they responded to the other student, they were the ones who were disciplined, not the bullier, and not the one who was doing the harassing in the first place. Sometimes parents say, we've been treated differently when we go to school and we advocate for our children. We are given trespass orders. We're told, you can't come back to the school. You can't deal with this particular teacher or this particular administrator because, you're angry or you're rude. And we know a lot of these stereotypes and assumptions are based on, negative beliefs about Black people, right? So when, let's say, a white family advocates for their kid, they're seen as a great parent, and they're seen as, a parent who's really invested in their kid's education. But when a Black family does it, particularly, let's say, a single Black mother, that's seen as angry, or that's seen as, somebody who's being unreasonable. And so those are the things that we hear a lot of in our work. I think because the Education Act provides rights mostly to the parent or guardian, unless the student is over 18, or if they're 16 or 17 and have independence, so they've withdrawn from parental control. We hear mostly from parents. We hear mostly from the families or the caregivers. So we're getting a lot of stories about what they believe their child is going through or what they have experienced themselves. But when we get down and we sit and we talk to the kids, we hear similar things, but we also hear something that people call microaggressions. We hear about, those slights that are happening in school. Their hands are up and they're trying to answer a question and they're being ignored, let's say, by the teacher. Or, if they do well, there's almost like surprise from the teacher, or there's comments about their hair, like, smaller things that maybe they wouldn't raise with their parents. because it might not be seen as like a huge discriminatory act, but it still has an impact, right? It still compounds to the point where you say, should I wear my hair this way? Is my teacher going to say something? Are they going to point it out? Or, what's the point of me even participating in class? I'm just looked over, or I'm seen as the troublemaker all the time, right? So there's a variety of challenges we see, some big, some small, but they all can amount to discrimination, and they can all amount to anti-Black racism for our clients. So that's kind of some of the challenges that we see. At the Black Legal Action Center, we provide free legal services to Black people who are experiencing discrimination across the province. They have to be living on low and no incomes, but we do provide free legal services in a variety of areas. Education is one of them, also employment, housing, human rights, policing, social assistance. So we do provide free legal services in a lot of different areas. I think what is so unique about the education system is that it's supposed to be a place where your child learns and they have great experiences, and it's so foundational to their whole life. You're in school for most of your life, you're in school for most of the days. And so if the experience isn't good for you, if the experience causes trauma, or you're afraid to be who you are, you're afraid to wear your hair a particular way, you're afraid to speak your mind and to have experiences, that can be quite traumatizing and affect people. I'll never forget when BLAC first opened. One of our first clients, grown person and later in life, and this person said to us, all of the challenges that I'm having now, they said, I still remember the first experience of being expelled from school. And they said that was the first moment where I knew like my life had just gone in a different direction. And it was being excluded from school, being labeled as a troublemaker, that kind of like propelled their thinking. And they said it derailed their life to the point where, 30 years later, they still link their experience back to the education system. So it's such an important area for BLAC to be working in, because we want to make sure that all students, regardless of race, are having a great education and are, having good experiences in a place where they're spending the majority of their lives. So in terms of the services that we provide to young people in the child welfare system, we don't provide direct legal services to those people who are experiencing any discrimination in that system. If there is an allegation, let's say, of unfair treatment, let's say with a worker, or with any decisions that a child welfare agency has made, then BLAC may be able to provide services in that way. But in terms of any child protection issues or family law custody issues, BLAC does not provide direct legal services in that way, but we can provide a referral to Legal Aid Ontario, where you can get a legal aid certificate to a lawyer who can represent you directly. And we also work in partnership with the Collective of Child Welfare Survivors, so CCWS, and they have a new robust intake process. And so you can look them up at collectiveofcws.ca. Yeah, so in terms of supports that BLAC can provide to the 2S LGBTQ2A plus community, we don't discriminate based on how people identify. So we do have many clients who identify in that community, and yes, we have clients who've experienced discrimination in medical services, let's say, in education, in housing, especially, right? There's so many areas where race and gender identity, sexual orientation, gender expression intersect and manifest in extreme trauma and unfair treatment. So for sure, we provide those direct services. We also, as I mentioned earlier, engage in strategic litigation. So if there are issues that affect a particular BLAC community in very serious and more ways, that might be one area that we can get involved as well. But for sure, in our direct legal services, it doesn't matter how people identify, we take on those cases. In terms of the advice I provide to people who are considering launching a legal action, is to let people know that it is a very long process. So this may be something that you've been dealing with your family or your child for, let's say, a couple of years now. They've started school, they're, let's say, in their grade 2, and you've noticed these issues persist, or they're in high school and it's been happening since they're in elementary school. Just to let you know that the legal system is a very slow, often archaic process. And so it's just important that people know it's a long road. It's important also to consider, what is happening at your child's school, what are their concerns, talk to your child, do they want to pursue something? Because oftentimes, they might still be in the same class as the teacher who is the bad actor, right? So making sure that your child is on board as well. And if your child is not on board, what does that look like? Are you willing to, maybe pursue another avenue? Maybe it's about mediation. Maybe it's about talking to the principal, the superintendent, and having some supports in that way. Maybe it's filing, BLAC, we can assist in filing a complaint to the Ontario College of Teachers, right? Maybe instead of going through the Human Rights Tribunal, that might be a way to deal specifically with the teacher. Another thing to think about is, do you have emails, letters, photos, notes, video? A lot of bullying now is happening on social media. Make sure you take screenshots and keep those things. Just make sure you keep that documentation. One note to make is that with the Human Rights Tribunal, you have a 1-year limitation period. So it means that you can only bring cases forward where the incident of discrimination has happened within the last year. Sometimes they let that 1 year extend if there's been a series of incidents. So let's say you've been, been discriminated against in grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, they would take it from the grade 7 if that was the last year, and if there's enough of a connection there. But just thinking about that limitation period, you have 1 year to bring these issues forward if you're going the human rights route. So it's important to get legal assistance and just even legal guidance early on. Also think about, what, if anything, you and your family have done to address the issue. Have you gone to the superintendent 6 times and nothing has changed? It's important to kind of make documentation of that. Think about how you want the problem solved, and also think about the impact that it's had on your child and your family. Really document that. Have you had to go to therapy? Have you had to go to, your religious leader or your church or your mosque and get support? Really kind of identify the steps that you've had to take to kind of manage it, because all of that is going to be important in building a case and thinking about remedies that you want later down the line. Yeah, so in terms of public legal education for young people who are experiencing discrimination or unfair treatment in the school system, that is something that BLAC really is looking forward to doing more in the future, connecting with organizations who are serving young Black people and Black families, and making sure that we're providing resources and information that's relevant to young people. Maybe it's using TikTok as a way to engage with young people. Maybe it's using, other tools that they're already on to really engage with it so that they know their rights. A lot of the rights under the Education Act do remain with the parents, but that doesn't mean that there can't be meaningful ways for young people to participate in their own education, right? Just like in the justice system, how if there's a legal issue and you get a lawyer, that lawyer has a duty of confidentiality with you, not with your parents, right? And I think we need to kind of build in those ways for young people to feel safe and willing to bring up issues with their lawyers or with organizations that are helping them in the education system. Because oftentimes, sometimes what the parents want and what the young person wants don't align. So it's really important for us to have connections with young people directly. So in terms of examples of when you might call BLAC if you're facing discrimination in the education system, so let's say, a policy or a practice within the school system has a negative effect on you or your child because of something like race, this could amount to discrimination under the Human Rights Code. So as an example, a fight happens at the school. It involves your child and 5 other students. The vice principal breaks up the fight, asks your child what happened, what they did to cause the fight, and demands that only your child go immediately to the office, right? The vice principal doesn't speak to the other students involved. They don't ask them to go to the office. Your child is Black and the other students involved are not. So this is an example of discrimination, potentially discrimination under the Ontario Human Rights Code. And this is an example of where you would call BLAC and you would ask us to look into the case and potentially represent you and provide legal services. So the referral process at BLAC, in order for families to connect with us in a time of need, they can call BLAC. So currently we're providing all of our services virtually. We're not accepting any walk-in clients, and we do have a provincial mandate. So it means that people are calling from all over the province. So it's much easier, much faster to get through to us on our main line. You can reach BLAC at 1-877-736-9406. And when you call that number, you can connect to our intake coordinator. And our intake hours are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And on those days, you can speak to somebody between 9 and 12:30 p.m. and 1:30 and 4 p.m. And so that's the easiest way to connect with us. Through our intake process, we'll ask you some questions about your income, because we do have a financial eligibility requirement. We'll ask you questions about where you live, what your legal issue is, and then we provide you with some legal information. If you qualify for our services and you are experiencing an issue that we can help you with, you will be referred to a lawyer, and that lawyer will give you legal advice, maybe more legal information. They might help you represent yourself. They might represent you for all or some of your case. And if we cannot assist you, we will always try to provide you with a referral to another lawyer. Maybe it's a non-legal referral, or we might provide you with some information on another organization that we can help you, that may be able to help you. So the type of service that BLAC gives you really depends on things like, what the legal problem is that you're facing, your income, as I mentioned, your assets, and just the issues that you're facing. So that's a typical overview of what we can do for you.